Recognizes the gentleman from Pennsylvania's 13th District for 5 minutes for questions.
Thank you, Chairman Lada and Ranking Member Matsui, for holding this oversight hearing. I also appreciate the chairman and all the commissioners for taking time to testify today. Pennsylvania's 13th congressional district, as I've emphasized to you in the past, is incredibly rural. It has hills and hollers, nooks and crannies surrounded by mountains. I appreciate the efforts that the FCC has taken so far to focus on connecting all Americans, specifically the constituents of Pennsylvania 13. With that comes the responsibility to manage large amounts of grants and federal funding. This funding is going out to providers, not only in my district, but over the entirety of this great land. Chair Rosenworcel, last week, the FCC announced that it will not provide broadband relief for RDIF and CAF2 providers that default on their build-out obligations. I applaud that decision. Providers should be required to fulfill their obligation to the American people. This issue raises an important consideration about the coordination between the FCC and NTIA as the BEAD program is rolled out. How are the two agencies coordinating to ensure that there is not overbuilding of RDIF and CAF build-out locations within the BEAD program?
Thank you, Congressman. This is a really important question. We have so many broadband programs. We need to make sure we take those resources and use them in a smart way. We've got two initiatives at the FCC that speak to your question. First, in the last month, I signed again a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Treasury, Department of Agriculture, and Department of Commerce to make sure that we coordinate on all data with our broadband programs. Second, I am producing something called the Broadband Funding Map, and it doesn't get enough attention. It's a map of all of the enforceable commitments under our broadband programs in the United States. We can use that map for accountability to make sure there's no overbuilding and that we make sure we reach everyone. That map is really important, and I encourage every member of this committee to become familiar with it.
Thank you, and I appreciate you bringing that into this discussion. This rollout is going to be the largest investment of a decade and might be the best chance that we get to connect rural Americans. It is our responsibility to use this opportunity to ensure that my constituents are able to connect to reliable and high-speed internet. The 5G fund is another important funding source that enables rural connectivity. It is imperative that the 5G fund is distributed efficiently and results in actual 5G wireless services being provided to rural areas. This program is intended to replace portions of current high-cost fund, and millions of rural communities risk losing connectivity if it is not implemented correctly. Commissioner Carr, as written, the 5G fund uses a minimum of 7.1 speeds. Previous FCC programs require speed thresholds with higher minimums, reflecting services that consumers want and have come to expect. And 7.1 is clearly low for 5G standards. Are you concerned that lowering the bar on the speed thresholds would degrade the intent of the fund?
Thank you, Congressman, for the leadership, and thanks for your work for your district. I've enjoyed the chance to spend some time there with you and in a broadband roundtable that you organized. With the 5G fund, I voted previously to move forward with it. I've called for this agency to do it. I think the most important question right now is how do we do so in a way that makes sense with the BEAD program that's underway as well, so that we can align the two programs in a way that makes sense from a timing and other perspective. But you're right, we should be funding services at the end of the day with a 5G fund that are capable of offering 5G services.
Chair Rosenworcel, can it truly be called a 5G fund if the technical parameters in the current order will not reliably provide 5G services?
All right, I want to just acknowledge where we are right now. We have a draft that I've put before my colleagues. We are talking about the draft, including service levels, what's viable in different parts of the country, what technologies are going to be used to make sure that we get to everyone. So we're not done with this process yet, and I will make sure that our conversations take what you just said into account.
Thank you. We would appreciate that, and if you could make this committee aware as you proceed with that. Congress must ensure that we are providing federal grants to communities where they are needed. All of us need to be responsible stewards of the taxpayer dollar and providing funds to rural areas, not just large urban centers, where the connectivity will be life-changing and in some cases, truly life-sustaining. I thank all of you for being with us here today and for giving your time and I yield the balance of my time.
Thank you. The gentleman yields back. The chair will now recognize